of this unplanned event. This is a safety story from the medical service. And it's basically the story is that our facility was contacted by a hepatologist at the Harbor VA who had just seen a patient by a VVC in the Finger Lakes region. The story of this patient is that in January of 2020, they had an ultrasound which showed a new liver mass about 2 centimeters in size. It had a normal tumor marker, alpha-fetoprotein, for those of you who know. They did a CT thorax done about the same time that showed multiple stable pulmonary nodules. That was in September, and he was in surveillance. So that's a lung cancer screening. It's a liver cancer screening, and these were, he had an normal result on the liver and stable result on the lung. So subsequently, the patient was lost to follow-up for his screening exams and then was recovered by a local clinician who found the patient on the cirrhosis dashboard and where he was listed as overdue for cancer screening. And these dashboards exist for several different tumor types and chronic diseases and provide an opportunity. It's a screening tool, so they do look through the medical record and identify people who have particular conditions and who, because of those conditions, are supposed to have interval screenings, and it scans the record automatically to see if those screenings are on file. There are a variety of reasons why they may not if they're followed outside of VA, for instance, but for our patients, they do populate on the dashboard. So the patient, as a result of it being found on the dashboard, had an ultrasound in November of 2022 that failed to show the prior right lobe mass. His tumor marker had increased from 3 and change to 200, which is remarkable, but not definitive of cancer or anything. By January of 2023, the tumor marker increased to about 500. An MRI wasn't able to be done because he did have a pacemaker, so a CT scan was done without contrast because he had kidney disease, which decreases the sensitivity of that kind of exam. And that showed no mass as well. In May of 2023, the AFP rose to almost 8,000. And at that point, that is fairly definitive for the presence of a tumor. So an ultrasound was repeated at that time, and that showed an over 6 centimeter liver mass. A liver biopsy was done at a local hospital. It was non-diagnostic. And that's the point at which the patient was seen by this Harbor VA hepatologist. So when they did hear about that, they called our tumor board directly, and our liver cancer care coordinator, and had the patient sent to our ER that day. Admission was arranged by our hospitalist team so we could have an expedited workup and see where he was at. He was reimaged that day, had a CT of the chest and abdomen with contrast, showing a liver mass measuring about 10 centimeters and a 3.5 centimeter mass in the right lung with enlarged lymph nodes. His AFP at that time, or the tumor marker, was now about 44,000, so it's really going up fast. He was discussed at the tumor board in our group the following day after these studies were complete, and a treatment plan was composed so that he was seen by pulmonary, GI, and interventional radiology, among others. Not a happy story, but it does have a couple of important messages. One is that health dashboards can prompt utilization of effective health screens, but they need to be monitored diligently to be effective. So we have these tools, and just because of staffing and people being overwhelmed with existing responsibilities, where it seems overwhelming. And although the dashboards do get looked at occasionally, they're not systematically used in the way that they're intended to be. Other point is that early utilization of subject matter experts can be essential to delivering the best possible care. So we need to find a way to get these patients at geographically disparate locations across the VISN and get them into the people who know to potentially question results that don't make a lot of sense. Like those follow-up scans the guy had that didn't show the presence of a tumor, they were done in a way where a tumor could easily be missed. And if you didn't know that, then you might be falsely reassured by those findings. So it is important to take these people and get them into folks who have more experience in dealing with the disease processes. What did we learn? I learned that it's maybe more essential than I would have otherwise said to staff and monitor all health dashboards to promote early diagnosis and treatment of cancer. I learned that the developing networks of teams available to large geographic areas familiar with cancer treatment algorithms can speed diagnosis and treatment when they're connected with patients. And our alignment to HRO is sensitivity to operations, preoccupation with failure, and deference to expertise. Hiring RNs to monitor dashboards seems mundane, but it is essential to operations and our ultimate goal of taking the best care possible of our veterans. And also that cancers grow silently until it's sometimes too late. You know, if you're waiting for a cancer to become symptomatic, it's generally much harder or impossible to treat at that point. So we really have to be vigilant about doing the screening exams. And even the veterans, it's hard sometimes to educate them that, you know, what kind of symptoms will I have when I have cancer? You're not going to have any symptoms when you have cancer. That's part of the sinister nature of the disease. So early engagement with subject matter experts can also make a difference in health outcomes, and using these systems that we have to connect patients as soon as possible to SMEs will improve our outcomes ultimately over time. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. It's worth waiting to a Friday to do that presentation. So interesting that, you know, you talked about the dashboard and the importance of monitoring. So how have we changed our practice?
We are working on it. And you know, as a result of this, part of the reaction to this has only happened a week or so ago. So I talked with the team about it, and we're going to make as cogent a case as possible to try to adjust our staffing, be creative with the staffing and work assignments so that we realistically can monitor these dashboards. It is something that people are struggling with across the VISN. It's not as if we're behind. I think we actually do a better job when you look at all the sites. You know, our VISN lead for hepatology shares data all the time about how well we're doing, like how well are the dashboards updated. I think the problem, just to be real about this for a minute, is that a lot of the data on the dashboards are felt to be, you know, more white noise, you know, because we do have a lot of veterans on the dashboard, maybe diagnosed with cirrhosis, but follow with outside providers. And so it really, you know, what we're talking about is the optimistic way of looking at this is where we want to have people monitor the dashboards to diagnose cancer and save people's lives. And yes, that's certainly true. But what they may be doing 95% of the time is, quote unquote, cleaning up the dashboards so we have the best data stream possible. And not that that isn't important, it's just not as glamorous. So if you have someone look through 1,000 cases on the dashboard, they may not find any cancer. You know, maybe they will find, like this guy was found through a dashboard. So it's possible, but you get into this discussion then about resource utilization. How much does it cost to hire a nurse who's willing to police a dashboard with a group and clean that data and try to find these cases? So I don't mean to suggest that it'd be easy or it's going to be high yield, that we're like 10% of the people we look at on the dashboard are going to have cancers. They may be out of date with their screening. And so that's really what this is about. You have to take a very systems-based look at that, but even the best folks, I would say their dashboards are in the range of 50 to 60%. I don't think anybody's crested 60%, meaning that you know, 60% of people are in compliance who are on the dashboard with current screening recommendations. And this comes up multiple areas. Like it's going to be an issue for lung cancer screening, for liver cancer screening, other diseases as well, but those are the big ones. Colon cancer screening, we have a colorectal dashboard. And the problem now is it's a tool that's made available to existing staff, which are usually providers, and the providers are otherwise occupied. So there's been a little bit of a shuffle, like, oh, the tumor tracker nurses can do it. But realistically, there aren't enough of them. They don't have enough time. So it it's usually seen as an additional responsibility, but we have immediate direct patient care responsibilities that we want to meet. We have to get this guy who has a tumor into treatment and make sure everything goes well. We don't have time to look for new cases, which is what the dashboards represent. Which is why it's an unfunded mandate, right? No one sent money with this. They just said, here's a new tool, use it.
Well, I like the idea. I'm very impressed with the idea that you're looking at the system. And, you know, I think a lot can come of this. And I think it's a wonderful HRO story. So I'll be interested to hear more of this in a follow-up. So
Yep,
thank you.
absolutely.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. All right. That was worth waiting on a Friday for. Okay, anyone else this morning?